People think they're being ignored. They think others don't see them, don't value them, don't care. But what if I told you something far darker and far more powerful? Most people aren't ignoring you. They're testing you. This is one of the deepest, most misunderstood principles in dark psychology. Human beings don't judge you by what you say. They judge you by what you do when you feel unseen. And if you pay close attention, you'll notice something unsettling. People often pull back, not to push you away, but to study you, to observe your reactions, to measure your emotional strength, to check if you're grounded or desperate, centered or easily shaken. This quiet examination happens everywhere in relationships, friendships, workplaces, even with strangers. But most people remain blind to it. They take every pause personally. They interpret every silence as rejection. They see every delay as disrespect. But the truth is darker. People use silence the same way they use pressure to reveal who you really are. When someone ignores you, they're watching how deeply you depend on their attention. They want to know if your confidence collapses when they withdraw. They want to see whether you remain composed or crumble, whether you continue rising or self-destruct. Your reaction becomes your reputation. Dark psychology teaches something powerful. Silence exposes more truth than words ever could. When you remain centered in the middle of someone's silence, you communicate strength without speaking. When you don't chase, when you don't beg for attention, when you don't collapse into insecurity, you send a message far louder than desperation ever could. Those who test you aren't always your enemies. Sometimes they're mirrors. Sometimes they're reminders. Sometimes they're the push your identity needs, because the law of attraction does something strange with emotional tests like these. It mirrors your self-worth. If you chase what ignores you, you affirm that you're beneath it. If you collapse under silence, you attract more silence. If you center yourself, you attract connections built on respect, not pity. You're not being ignored. You're being measured. Everyone you meet evaluates your energy, your presence, your emotional discipline, your resistance to pressure. Don't watch your posture. They watch your eyes. They watch the shift in your voice when you feel uncertain. And without realizing it, you teach them how to treat you. Now pause for a moment. If you're ready to choose strength over reaction, comment this phrase below. I stay powerful, even in silence. Let's go deeper. The darkest part of human behavior is this. People trust those who don't need them. It's counterintuitive but true. People respect what is self-contained. People are drawn to what doesn't chase. People value what isn't easily shaken. When someone ignores you, they're observing whether you lose the identity you claim to have. Anyone can act confident when attention is given. The real test is who you become when the world turns away, even for a moment. Do you stay grounded? Do you stay focused? Do you keep building yourself? Do you maintain your worth? Or do you shrink back into the old patterns you swore you'd outgrow? This test reveals your true emotional stability. Dark psychology says the most intimidating person in any room is the one whose self-worth doesn't rise or fall based on how others treat them, because that person cannot be manipulated. Their center cannot be shaken. Their value cannot be bought with attention. Ignoring you isn't always disrespect. Sometimes it's curiosity. Sometimes it's analysis. Sometimes it's the universe showing you the gap between who you are and who you claim to be. One more time. If you're ready to rise above emotional tests, comment this phrase, my value stays with me. In section 2, we go deeper into the psychology of why certain people pull back when you rise, and what your reaction reveals. When someone pulls away from you, it feels personal, it feels targeted, it feels unfair. But here's the truth. Most people never hear. Distance is a psychological doorway. Only the strong walk through it. People create space not to punish you, but to read you, to see whether you crumble, chase, over-explain, or stay centered, because your reaction reveals your emotional DNA. In dark psychology, this is called behavioral exposure. The moment when someone silently watches your true patterns come to the surface. When they go quiet, they're watching your posture. When they delay replies, they are watching your discipline. When they give you less attention, they're watching your stability. Silence isn't the test. Your reaction is. And this is where most people fail. Instead of staying grounded, they panic. Instead of staying confident, they seek reassurance. Instead of staying focused, they chase. And the moment you chase, you hand your power away. People test your emotional independence because they want to know if standing beside you will pull them upward or pull them downward. They want to know whether you can handle pressure without falling apart, whether you can hold your identity without needing constant validation. Because here's the darkest truth. When you become too affected by someone's silence, you show them they control your emotional weather. And once someone realizes they can influence your mood, they respect you less. Not intentionally, it's human nature. But when you stay calm during the test, when you keep your posture, keep your routine, keep your confidence, you communicate something rare, emotional maturity. People are drawn to those who don't need them to feel complete. People follow those who don't collapse under pressure. People respect those who can stand alone without shaking. This is why silence reveals power. The stable rise, the unstable fall. Now pause for a moment. If you want people to feel your strength even in quiet moments, comment this phrase below. My silence holds power. Let's go deeper. Human behavior works like a mirror. Whatever you show others, they reflect right back at you. If you treat yourself with low value, they mirror it. If you respond like a storm, they treat you like chaos. If you stay composed in silence, it treats you like someone who chooses themselves. The law of attraction amplifies this effect. Your energy teaches the world how to interact with you. Your identity sets the tone of every connection. Now the universe aligns you with people who match your emotional level. So when someone tests you by pulling back, the question isn't, why are they doing this? The real question is, what will my reaction reveal about me? Because the person who wins these silent psychological moments is the one who understands that attention is not currency, identity is. And the way you carry yourself when you feel ignored determines the quality of the people you attract into your life. Your reaction becomes your ranking. Before we end this section, pause one more time. If you're ready to rise above every test, comment, my value speaks louder than attention. Section 3 will take you even deeper into how your presence shifts when you stop chasing and start becoming. There is a moment in every psychological test where the entire energy flips. A moment where the person testing you realizes you're not reacting the way they expected. You're not chasing. You're not collapsing. You're not fighting for attention. You're not proving anything. You're simply remaining still, and stillness is far more powerful than pressure. This is where the magic of dark psychology becomes visible. Because the moment you stop chasing what pulls away from you, your presence changes. Your vibe deepens. Your value heightens. People sense something different. They feel a shift in the way you carry yourself, a heavier confidence, a quieter dominance, a stronger identity. You see, human behavior is wired in a strange way. People assume that silence means weakness until they meet someone who turns silence into strength. When you stop chasing, you create a psychological vacuum, a space where the other person begins to feel the weight of your absence. They become aware of the attention they're not getting, the validation you're not offering, and the reaction you refuse to give. This absence becomes louder than your presence ever was. People don't expect emotional discipline, they expect emotional dependence. And when you show the opposite, you disrupt their expectations. You force them to reevaluate you. You force them to adjust their behavior around you. This is identity power, the strongest form of influence. Because when someone realizes you won't beg for their attention, they pay more attention. When they notice their silence doesn't shake you, they start noticing your silence. When they see you stay grounded, they start questioning their own instability. This is the psychological shift of non-reaction. Now, pause here. If you're ready to let your presence speak louder than any reaction, comment this phrase, my silence changes the room. Let's go deeper. When you stop chasing, you unlock a part of yourself you didn't know existed. A part that doesn't fear distance. A part that values growth over validation. A part that understands that attention is temporary, but identity is permanent. People test you to see whether your worth depends on them. When they realize it doesn't, their entire strategy collapses. Suddenly, their silence feels unnecessary. Suddenly, their distance feels dramatic. Suddenly, their test feels pointless because you refuse to play. And here's the twist. The moment they feel they're losing emotional power over you, they come closer. The moment they fear they misjudged you, they try again. The moment they sense your independence, their interest increases, not because you manipulated anything, but because that's how energy works. The law of attraction moves toward stability, toward confidence. toward self-control, toward those who don't collapse under emotional pressure. When you stop chasing, you become rare. When you become rare, you become valuable. When you become valuable, people rise to meet you. Now one more time, if you're ready to elevate your presence, comment this powerful phrase: I move with quiet strength. Because in the next section, you'll discover what happens when your value becomes undeniable. There is a moment in every silent test where something unexpected happens. The person who tried to analyze you becomes unsure of themselves. At first, they pulled back to see how you'd react. They created distance to measure your discipline. They turned quiet to expose your emotional patterns. But then, you did something they didn't predict. You stayed calm. You stayed centered. You stayed focused on your own world. Instead of collapsing, you grew sharper. Instead of chasing, you elevated. Instead of begging for attention, you became the someone people pay attention to. And this is the moment everything changes. Because when someone tests you, they expect weakness, they expect insecurity, they expect emotional noise. But when they test you and find stillness instead, it disrupts their entire psychological assumption about you. This is where dark psychology flips the script. Suddenly, you become the unpredictable one. Suddenly, your behavior becomes the mystery. Suddenly, your silence becomes the thing they can't decode. People test you to place you in a box, but when the box breaks, their perception breaks with it. They realize they underestimated you. And here's something almost poetic. The moment they see you can walk alone, they become afraid of losing their place beside you. This is attraction. At the psychological level, not romantic attraction, but human attraction to strength, identity, and emotional gravity. When your identity strengthens, your presence becomes heavier, more magnetic. You don't demand attention, you draw it. You don't seek approval, you project certainty. You don't chase connections adjust around you. The law of attraction favors those who remain aligned with themselves. People feel it, people respond to it, people respect it. Now pause here. If you're ready to carry the kind of presence that flips the power dynamic, comment this phrase below: my presence speaks for me. Let's continue. When the test reverses, the tester becomes the student. They start picking up on details they ignored before: the confidence in your posture, the sharpness in your eyes, the calm tone you use even when silent, the way you don't reveal your emotions too easily. They begin to see layers in you they never noticed: their composure, their discipline, the mystery. And the mystery is what pulls them in the most. Because people cannot resist what they can't predict. They cannot ignore what they can't understand. They cannot forget what they can't control. Your silence becomes a mask, not to hide your weaknesses, but to protect your power. You don't expose everything. You don't respond to everything. You don't explain yourself to everyone. This is the moment when you stop being an option and start becoming a standard. People don't return because you chased. They return because you didn't. End this section one more time. If you're ready to become the person people test once and never forget, comment this phrase: I master my reactions. In section 5, we go deeper into how your new identity begins shaping the world around you. There is a point in every silent psychological test where the truth becomes impossible to ignore. A point where the person who once tested you begins to feel the shift in your energy. A point where they can no longer pretend they didn't notice your strength. Because when you stop chasing, when you stop reacting, when you stop collapsing under silence, your value becomes impossible to unsee. It doesn't matter who the person is: a friend, a stranger, someone you like, someone who doubted you. The human mind reacts the same way. When someone remains grounded while being tested, their presence becomes heavier, stronger, more undeniable. This is the moment where they feel something new: respect. And respect is the rarest form of attention. People can ignore attractiveness. People can ignore words. People can ignore effort. But they cannot ignore composure. Because composure comes from identity, not emotion. When you remain centered under pressure, it shows you're not shaped by external forces. You're shaped by who you choose to be. And that's when the test reverses. They start noticing things they completely overlooked before: the stability in your tone, the control in your reactions, the confidence in your silence, the discipline in your focus. They start wondering why you aren't reacting. And that curiosity becomes attraction. Not romance, but psychological attraction to strength. When someone sees that you don't break down, when ignored, they stop. seeing you as someone who can be controlled, and nothing raises your value faster than emotional independence. This is the moment the mind reevaluates you. They realize you're not like the others who fall apart under quiet pressure. You're not like the ones who panic when attention fades. You're not one of those who crumble at the slightest emotional shift. You're different, and that difference rearranges the entire dynamic. Remember this truth: people don't chase attention. People chase stability. Even the ones who test you are secretly looking for someone who can remain unshaken, someone who doesn't break from silence, someone who doesn't need reassurance to breathe, someone who carries themselves with internal certainty. And when they realize you're that person, everything changes. Your presence now carries authority. Your words carry weight. Your silence becomes powerful. Your distance becomes meaningful. You become someone whose attention is earned, not demanded. That's the moment your value becomes undeniable. Before we continue, pause for a moment. If you're ready to let your value speak louder than your reactions, comment this phrase below: "My energy commands respect." Now let's go deeper. The moment people realize they misjudged you, you become harder to replace, harder to ignore, harder to forget, because they saw a version of you they didn't expect: a stronger, quieter, more disciplined identity. Your presence begins to linger. In their mind, your silence becomes noticeable. Your absence becomes heavy. They rethink the test. They rethink their distance. They rethink what they thought they knew about you. This is psychological gravity, the pull of someone who stands tall, even when no one is watching. And once people feel that gravity, they come back with a different tone. Not because you demanded respect, but because your behavior earned it. Before we end this section, declare your identity one more time. My worth is felt, not spoken. In section 6, we'll reveal what happens once the world starts adjusting to your elevated identity. There comes a moment in your journey where everything you've learned, everything you've understood, everything you've mastered about silence, presence, and emotional strength finally comes together. It's the moment the world realizes you're not the same person they once tested. You've evolved. You've sharpened. You've stepped into a version of yourself that's too stable to shake and too grounded to misread. And this is where the final shift happens, not inside you, but around you. Because once your identity elevates, the environments around you begin to adjust. People start speaking to you differently. They watch their tone. They choose their words. They become more careful, more respectful, more aware. Not because you changed your behavior, but because your presence changed the atmosphere. That's the power most people never reach. The power of psychological gravity. The kind of energy that makes people think twice before testing you again. When you've proven that silence doesn't control you, people stop using silence as a weapon. When you've shown that distance doesn't weaken you, people stop creating distance to gain power. When you've demonstrated that your self-worth comes from within, people stop trying to influence it from the outside. This is the moment they stop testing you and start respecting you. Human behavior bends around certainty. People feel the difference between someone who's pretending to be strong and someone who's actually grounded in their identity. And you, after everything you've passed through, have become grounded. Your reactions are minimal. Your presence is elevated. Your emotional control is unmistakable. You're not easily moved. You're not easily manipulated. You're not easily replaced. You become the kind of person others adjust themselves around. But here's the real beauty of this transformation. You didn't become powerful to impress anyone. You became powerful because your soul got tired of shrinking. You rose out of necessity. You evolved out of exhaustion. You grew because staying the same was no longer an option. And now, your strength has become your natural state. Before we close this journey, pause here. If you're ready to step into a future shaped by your elevated identity, comment this one final phrase: I rise above every test. Because this isn't the end of your evolution. This is the beginning of your influence. From now on, people will approach you differently. People will think twice before testing you. People will value your silence. People will seek your presence instead of your reaction. People will feel your stability before you even speak. You've become someone who is not defined by attention, but by self-respect, not shaped by silence, but shaped by discipline, not weakened by distance, but strengthened by identity. This is the point where your power becomes natural, and your next chapter begins. Walk forward knowing this. You are not meant to be understood by everyone. You are meant to be remembered by those who recognize strength when they see it, and the world remembers those who stand tall, even when no one is watching. This is your transformation. This is your rise. This is your new identity, and it starts now.